Tell us about your first week as a bobby.
Oh, God. First week as a bobby. So, counting out training school, counting out all the learning development issues and things like that, I first started my shift on lates. So, I was starting it were a weekend at the time. So, I was starting at, I think, 4 o'clock on a weekend, somewhere around that time. And I remember getting all my kit, because you don't get a day before to go and deliver all your equipment in your locker, where now you do. Now you can go to a police station beforehand and get all your locker set out and get all your kit in. So I remember turning up with these bags, massive bags of riot gear, all the other bags, things that I needed for the equipment that I had to take. And I remember going into a room and meeting my tutor, which was called Sam, who was the same age as me, but she'd been in a long time. I think she'd been in 6 years at the time. And Sam took me straight through to a briefing room. I got my gas, I got my radio, put my radio on. These were the times when it were a big box on your side and it was this big wire that goes over you, like you used to see on Bill. And radio had a big aerial on it. And I remember going through into the briefing room, and then Sam introduced me to everybody. And I was like a fish out of water, massively. We sat in a room with like 20 bobbies, and they all went round and introduced themselves. And obviously, I'm Ben. And I thought there were going to be some sort of like warm-up, some sort of let's go for a brew and let's get to know the area, let's get to know the station. And I remember it coming out as XW, we've got a report of a domestic incident, can anyone attend? And when you're in tutorship, you get to cherry pick your jobs. So your tutor looks at a job and goes, is this going to be good development for Ben? And I remember saying, we'd literally been in briefing like 2 minutes, and we sat down and Sam went, come on Ben, we're off. And I remember getting half my gear. I remember turning out with not what I needed, and other things like, say, like your NATO, right helmet, one leg shield, some pack of tickets that have been out of date for like 3 years, running out to a police car thinking I've got no fucking idea what I'm doing here. Because no matter what training you do in the police, they always say on your first day, like when I was tutoring people, on your first day, forget everything you've learnt. And go into the first day, all right, you've got a toolbox, but it's relatively empty, and you'll pick all this stuff up. I'm going jumping in this Astra, and Sam blue lighting through Keighley, and I couldn't get my seatbelt on. We're flying through these streets in this little 1.6 Astra, rotator lights going. There were no LEDs, so going woo, woo on inside the car, because you could hear it grinding at rotators. We got to a domestic, and man had beat his wife up. And she'd thrown him out and he were at the front door trying to get in. So instantly, I went up to him. Sam told me to lock him up, cuffs on. When I pulled my cuff out as well, my hand was like this. I was shaking, trying to put this bloke into cuffs. Got him locked up, and we escorted him back to the police station. So I think I've been on duty a total of 9 minutes before I made my first arrest. I got him into cells, and what Bobby's got to do when they're in cells is give circumstances to custody sergeant, and if there's not enough circumstances, custody sergeant won't accept them. So you've got to be, just say for instance, Sergeant, I've been to an address today, at the address there's a person that's laid dead on the floor, I can see life are extinct, this is a suspect who stood over him with a knife, therefore, so you've got the circumstances. And I remember my sergeant being Sergeant Lister, big man, 6 foot odd, ginormous, muscly bloke. Constable, why are your boots bulled? Constable, why have you got 2 tram lines down your shirt? Constable, why have you got this on? Why is this not right? I remember going in and trying to give circumstances to him, and all my voice would do, Sergeant, this man's been arrested for damage to property. And Sam said to him, he's been on duty 9 minutes. So I had to search him, put him in a cell, and when I got upstairs, I spent the last, I think, 5 hours after that doing paperwork and being debriefed. I were absolutely shattered. I'd been in literally 9 minutes, I'd done an arrest, I lodged him, and then my adrenaline had gone up, and then it come down on a massive plateau. And I think that were it then. I think from that moment forward, for the first 2 weeks, it was just full of cars making off, fights. It was more domestics than anything else. But one thing I do remember going to are the amount of rapes. I remember going to, because Sam were a rape trained officer, I remember going to so many rapes and seeing the different variations of rapes, seeing people that had either been drugged, people that had been forced, or vulnerable people that had been, how can I put it, what's that word? Groomed. vulnerable people have been groomed, and the different variations of how people were afterwards when they needed a video interview. And these were like days when rape kits didn't exist. So we carried around brown paper. Sounds really bizarre, but we carried around brown paper. You made them stand on brown paper and then take all the clothes off, obviously not with me there, take all the clothes off and get changed, or other clothing, not touch anything with the hands because they could have DNA under the fingernails. And then what you did is you picked all the brown paper upwards, goosenecked it and tied it all up, so all the evidence is in there. So anything that's dropped off the lady's body, any pubic hair, any semen or anything like that, were all in this. And little things like that, but this is, you have to understand that even though it's a 2001, times are how the technology that exists of what it is now. I mean, we're doing fingerprints on old sort of like NYPD ink. It was just bizarre, but the learning curve going up. I think the most traumatic thing I did on my first week is a sudden death. And we went to a sudden death of a lady that had died of cancer. Now, I need to be careful of how I word this, because when I say there were humour in it, it wasn't humour because someone had died, but it was my first vision of black humour, if you want to put it that way, because the woman had died, we dealt with her husband, and then what you've got to do, you've got to search the body. And it's quite strange that, because there's a lady, imagine a lady in bed, 60 years old, and you've got to technically look over the body, make sure there's no puncture wounds, there's no needle marks, there's nothing suspicious. Even though she has died of cancer, you don't know that her husband hadn't killed her. So you've got to look around and make sure everything's, check on medication, do anything you want to do, check the body, and then you phone for undertakers or the mortuary assistants to come. And I remember the mortuary assistants loaded, and just let me go on to this bit as well, so let me cut to the side. What I found really bizarre is how you treat when you die, and that you are technically, you're respected, but you're still a piece of meat. And I thought there'd be this, don't judge me on this, but I thought there'd be a special body bag, like a pink fluffy body bag, or something that were like, but it's not. You get put on a piece of visqueen, like plastic, you know, that kind of thing that you put over your driveway so weeds don't get on. That sort of thing, you get put on a piece of visqueen, then they just wrap you up like a doner kebab kind of thing, put you in a body bag and strap you to this gurney, right word, like a trolley, and that's it. And I'm like, quite shocked with that. And I remember him putting her on this visqueen, wrapping it up, dropping her in a body bag, zipping the body bag up, putting her on this gurney, but they couldn't get gurney out of the house. It was like a gurney that they brought in folded, and then they opened up and they couldn't get her out of the house. So they were trying to get her through, and this is what I mean as in the first bit of black humour. They tried to get her through door, and they kept on banging where her head was. They tried to get her sideways, and they eventually had to stand her up in the doorway, and she slid down in a body bag. And it wasn't humorous for me, but they were giggling, and obviously her husband wasn't there. But it's just how they deal with things. And I found it quite bizarre that you're dealing with a dead body and there's people smiling. But if you think about trying to get a dead body out of a house, you're trying to do it with pride and you're trying to do it with professionalism, and it's not going to work. They eventually got the lady out of the house, but that was probably the most shocking thing I've dealt with in the first time of being a bobby, because I'd seen a few dead bodies. I'd seen my granddad. I'd seen one where I used to work at Northwith Golf Club. But that was the one where you were having to touch it. That was the one where you were having to search it. And that was the one where you remove all jewellery. I remember because she'd lost her hair, she had a wig on. And we had to obviously remove the wig and check the head. So yeah, and that's what stuck me forever, is that's kind of the first sort of the first impression. Put it this way, you start off with that much knowledge in the police the first day you start, and then by day 2 it's instantly gone up. Your learning curve has instantly gone up. And I never looked back. I thought it was fantastic. Every single day of my career I thought it was fantastic, and every single day there was something new. But if it weren't for Sam taking me through those first steps of an arrest, of a rape, of a sudden death, I wouldn't have been the Bobby I was today. So yeah, thank you, Sam.
What advice would you, because you get quite a lot of comments from like new police officers and stuff that are like just starting in the job and they're asking you for advice. So like, what advice would you give for a police officer in the first week of the job?
I got told by my uncle joined the police either 6 months or 6 weeks before I did, and he sat me down. He were on training course when I were at a training course, and he sat me down and he just says, he were on training course when I were in my first week, and he just says, I'm just going to make this simple. Be a sponge and suck everything up, because you're going to have so much thrown at you. Keep your head down and don't answer back. Don't be a name. Don't try and be, you've got this what if boy. Yeah, but can I just ask a question? What if this happens? Or I'll be that arrogant lad who's come from a different background, walking around, strutting around. And I just put my head down or a sponge. But it's little things that you've got to do. So in 2001, you had a pocketbook. It's all digital now. So your pocketbook, you've got to fill a pocketbook in correctly. You've got to do it so structured, it's got to have lines. So the idea being is you'll say end of toe and you'll do a line and you'll put Monday 7-4 and you fill it in so it doesn't have any gaps. The reason being is if something happened, you could in theory open your pocketbook, go back 6 months, change it, put it in a gap, and then oh no, I actually wrote that down at the time, even though it's in different pen and different colours or whatever. So you had to put a line through. So there's certain grades. So it goes out from your dressing department, every single thing you're wearing, to how you carry things. That's why Bobby's walk in a certain way. To every single bit of kit, you've got to learn horties, which are cast as producers, which we don't really issue anymore, tickets, VDRSs, Form A's, pocket notebooks, and then gathering evidence. You've got to remember all these sort of things. And Craig just said, just put your head down. You can have it all thrown at you really quickly. Put your head down, be a sponge, and that's what I recommend. I'd recommend anyone to join the police. I'd never say don't join, and I'd just say be a sponge, and you'll do fantastic. All Bobbies that join I've met have all been great Bobbies. So yeah, if you want to go for a cream, please do it.